Thank you, Cassidy.
All right, we're good.
Excellent. Greetings. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our MSA online panel focused on fiction. We're not necessarily talking about fiction and we're not making anything up, but the exhibition that we are working on prepping for is titled Fiction. It's going to be juried by Thomas Sturgill, who is here with us today. He's our juror for the show, and he's going to be sharing a little bit about his work and then also what he thinks about as a curator and as a juror. Myself and Cassidy Fry, who are here, we are two of the members of the MSA Online Panels Committee. Cassidy, where are you coming from today?
I'm coming from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So
Excellent. And I'm coming from Norman, Oklahoma. That's just an accident as far as us both being in Oklahoma. We both serve on the board, and one of the components of being on the board are working on committees, and this is one of our choices for committee work. We also have another member, Brian Massey, who's in Arkansas. He is our third member of our committee, and we work on ways to be able to extend MIdSouth Sculpture Alliance's reach. Not everybody can join us at the conferences, not everybody can come to the exhibitions, but this is a way that we can make sure that we can share what is that we've been up to and how is that MSA aims to continue to uplift and reach out to our full network. So with our online panels, one of the other things we're doing is we're continuing to acknowledge and advertise for our upcoming event. What is it that we've been prepping for, Cassidy?
confab.
Confab. What is
Confab.
what does confab mean, Cassidy?
A gathering, right?
Yes.
Small gathering.
When I first met this idea of confab, I thought it was a made up word. I mean, all words are made up, but confab actually does mean small intimate gathering. And so unlike a conference where people might be going to different panels, confab, there's one panel, one keynote speaker always at one time. So everyone's in the room together. You get to share the experience. And so it's one day, October 2nd and 3rd is when we'll be going to be gathering in Conway, Arkansas at University of Central Arkansas, where Brian Massey, our third member of online panels, where he teaches and he is the director of that art program. It's going to be really fun. They have taken over everything. There's indoor and outdoor exhibitions. And there's going to be multiple workshops on Friday. And if you haven't yet, please mark your calendars. Come and join us. So that's coming up, but that's not part of this specific exhibition. MSA does so much for its membership when it comes to continuing to make sure that there are exhibitions to feature our professional artists, our professional members, but also people who want to participate. You don't have to be a member to be able to participate in this show. This show is happening in Tennessee, almost back to back from Confab. So everybody from Confab can basically leave Confab and then go to Tennessee and participate in the show. So more ways to be able to recognize all the work that's being made. I think I even forgot to mention who I am, though, didn't I?
Who are you?
Who am I? My name is Letitia Berhuyo. I am the vice president of MIdSouth Sculpture Alliance. I've been on the board. This is my 9th year on the board. So they haven't kicked me out yet. I'm inching in on my double digits. And so this group, though, means a lot to me. The things that MIdSouth Sculpture Alliance does and continues to be able to share is, I think, really valuable. And so if you haven't joined or if you need to renew your membership, please do so and come and hang out with us further. When it comes to sculpture, the networks that we have sometimes overlap in ways we don't realize. Like when we got on this call to start having this conversation, myself, Cassidy, and Thomas realized that we are the Tennessee Three, not the band from way back, but all three of us have an overlap from Tennessee. I did my graduate work at University of Tennessee, Knoxville in 1998 to 2001. Thomas, when were you at Tennessee?
I was at Tennessee from 1997 to 2003.
So we actually overlapped. And yeah, I remember hanging out down in sculpture.
Mhm.
And Cassidy, when were you in Tennessee?
I was there for grad school in 2015 till 2018.
Nice. So even though we weren't there at the same time, the energy is still shared. And so go Vols. And Tennessee continues to be such a major member of MIdSouth Sculpture Alliance. They're a university member, as well as a lot of their students, faculty, and alumni continue to participate. And so thank you both for being part of what we're doing today. And as we share our network of Tennessee, but also of sculpture. So Thomas is our juror for this show. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be able to participate and help select the works that will be seen in this exhibition. With that, would you be so kind to introduce yourself? Where are you coming from? And then share a little bit about your work.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Sure.
that look good? Perfect. So my name is Thomas. Um, I grew up in Southwest Virginia on the Virginia-Kentucky border, and then I went to University of Tennessee for undergrad as an engineering major, then switched to art. So when I gave you the years, those were a lot of years, but I switched majors. And then I went to Carnegie Mellon for grad school, which is an interdisciplinary program, and I think like a sculptor. I think I am a sculptor, even though I do a lot of different things. I'm going to show you some examples of other things I do. They're not just objects, but um, so I usually start off with this image. It's super embarrassing, but I think it shows my relationship with objects really well. This is a 3-day trip I took to my grandparents, and I brought 5 hats. I kind of think through objects. I kind of process my world through objects, and um, until somewhat recently, I've had to kind of deal with this in a different way, which I'll explain. This is not an artist talk. I'm going to show you some work, but I'm mostly going to talk about this theme or like my relationship to the theme, maybe. And I'm going to be a little more blunt than I kind of normally will be in terms of narrative. Um, I've been doing this for 25 years or so now, and I have this privilege of hindsight where I can now think about what I tend to be drawn towards. And one of my kind of active um, tasks I've given myself is kind of to really evaluate why I like what I like. And these 3 things always come up. This idea of the residue of an action. As a viewer, I like to see a residue of an action. I like a touched object. I like things that have been altered or changed or manipulated in some way. And I like the idea as a viewer also to be able to either right or wrong uh, discern the decisions behind what was done. And then I'm always attracted to this idea of kind of the perfect wrong. It's still perfect. It's just not perfect in the right way. A couple years ago, I taught a class about art and humor, and I think that's the overlap. It's the thing that like it should be this way, but it's not. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, and I think these things are hard to differentiate sometimes. There's a lot of overlap between these things. I love this thing. This is the kind of thing I will stop my car for and take a photo of. It is ridiculous. Someone chose to do this. All the materials make sense. The form, not so much. And I feel I want to know why. I want to know why this exists. I want to know why this ever happened. I really enjoy this object. I love this thing. I love that they never thought gas would be over $2. And not only the person who made this thing, that designed this sign, but also maybe the person who had to like change the sign. It was like, what do we do? Do we not change it? Do we do this? Does it hang off the side? And I love they made it hang off the side. And I love this thing. This is a great example of decision making. This kind of like musicians of Bremen, Russian nesting doll type of vehicle, where it's like layer on layer on layer on layer. I just love that someone went through their like mental flow chart and came out with this thing. And I show you these 3 things, not because I made them, but because in some ways I'm trying to make work as good as these 3 things. There's things about these I kind of want to do. So this is an example of my earliest work. This is UT work. This is 2002-ish. And I'm making these mechanical, kinetic things that are the residue of an action. They are sort of like showing you what's happening. On the left is this mechanical chair I made with these plaster wheels, and you run back and forth until the wheels fell apart. And then on the right is this bicycle I made with this vinyl spool for wheels. And it would leave the tracks, but in theory, the wheels would get smaller. So at some point you couldn't use it. I made a lot of machines that broke themselves. And then more recently, I make work like this, which this is me trying to get a bullseye, but instead of doing it from the standard 7 feet 9 inches or whatever that you play darts with, I'm trying to do it from NBA 3-point range. It's kind of the height of these two games overlapped on each other. Um, I've done it a couple of times. I've never succeeded. I've gotten very close before. It's really hard to do this, and it hurts. As I get older, it hurts more. But um, these are kind of an older and a newer example of the same situation. And what I'm going to really talk about with a little preamble here is kind of the last two shows I've had. And then maybe a little bit of what I'm working on now. So about, I don't know, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I found myself in the situation where I had to start making work about me for the first time, which conceptually made sense, but like was weird. Like, who would care about me ever? Um, but I had to do it. And then I also at the same time started questioning my relationship with objects in a way where like, the first half of your life you're gathering things up and you're building all this kinds of stuff. And now I'm, you know, older and I have kids and my some parents have died, some grandparents have died, I've collected some things, and my relationship with objects have changed to the point where my front brain is like, maybe you should stop making stuff, or maybe you should stop making things. I'm still gonna make stuff. Um, and my back brain is constantly fighting with my front brain. And I'll give you some examples. So if I'm making work about myself, my first thought is I want to make self-portraits. So I make a number of self-portraits, not really knowing what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. And so I started off with drawing because that's kind of a thing I was very comfortable doing. And I started making some photographs and kind of exploring this idea of a self-portrait. And these are large printed photographs. They're 30 by 50. But I'm still thinking of these as objects, right? So like it's a photograph that I've gessoed and I print on top of. I'm not thinking of it as an illusionary window, like a painting or something. They're still objects. And part of that is I'm trying to figure out my personal visual culture. I'm trying to figure out why I like what I like. So I started collecting a bunch of objects. I would go to the Goodwill outlet and started like buying these things. And at some point, I would have these collections of things. And one of the things I collected was like, I found myself buying things that other people earned. So that was an interesting collection. So these are my medals. Very successful. And then if I'm making work about me, then I'm making work about my experiences. And at some point, this is like 2020, maybe 2019, 2020. That's the beginning of 2020. Pre-COVID, but beginning of 2020. I had this show lined up, and right before that, we got this diagnosis. My mom got diagnosed with cancer. We all knew what was going to happen, and she was going to fly to California to get treatment, where she lived for the rest of her life. And before she left, I got her to give me these writing samples. So letters, numbers, punctuation, and then this phrase over and over: "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." Right? This is a sentence that has all the letters in it. And then thinking about language and text and how that works. And that's continued through the rest of my work up to this point in some ways. I started kind of rearranging her text. If I have her font, I can make her say whatever I want. So the middle image here says, "You were always my favorite. Don't tell your brother." And I immediately texted that to my brother. He said that hurt. And then the kind of main part of the show was this piece, which is a digital collage of that font that she gave me. And it says my mom always wrote notes to us growing up, little bits of wisdom or direction. After her diagnosis, I considered how much I would miss these messages in this specific font. So it's my words and her handwriting. So inherently a fallacy in some ways, but like once again, kind of the perfect version in my mind of how that would work. And I wanted this external part of this. So I made these stickers to give away. But instead of putting them on a pedestal, I wanted to put them in a pedestal. So when you came to the show, it said to take a sticker, and at the beginning of the show, the top surface of the pedestal matched the top surface of the stickers. So you reach in there and grab one if you want one. Later on, there was kind of a dam of objects that was pushed to the side. And eventually that dam broke. My mom died, my grandmother died. I had to deal with my parents' house. And there's things I had to take. So this foot locker on the left is a foot locker my grandfather made when he was a kid. And at some point, I remember my mom saying, "Oh, you should take that." And then when she died and also all this stuff happened, I was like, "Oh, I guess I have to take that now. I don't want it." I do think it's cool. It's in my son's bedroom now. But dealing with these objects, this is a good front brain, back brain situation. I still don't really want to make new things, but my back brain's like, you should make a bunch of furniture. So I made a copy of this footlocker, and it's not just a copy, it's a mirrored copy, so everything's reversed. I am mirroring the process of making it. He made everything out of kind of scraps. I'm making everything out new out of ash. The whole show is made out of ash. The show is really about this second show is all about kind of legacies of objects and how things work. And it's a mirrored copy. I didn't do a perfect job. I'm not trying to do a perfect job. I'm just trying to go through the same actions that he went through to make the original. I also made things like this. It's kind of weird shelf table thing. These are three objects that I gathered. This kind of metal, three objects that are kind of made by somebody that I bought. There's a metal truck. There's a bowl, wooden bowl with loose seal carved into it, and a little rock that someone wrote on it. This is of sentimental value with like a pink pen. And I made all this furniture. And each one of these is resting on this book. Books are supposed to rest on furniture. This furniture is resting on the book. And this book is mentioned in Robert Smithson's Monuments of Passaic, New Jersey. He talks about buying this book at the bus station. And when Nancy Holt died and donated all of Robert Smithson's books to the Smithsonian, this book wasn't donated. So either he didn't buy it and he lied, or he did buy it and lost it or gave it away or something. So I've been buying the book. It's this printing, it's this book. I keep buying them on eBay. In theory, trying to buy his copy. But I have a bunch of this book now. And then all of that was around this piece, which is a camera on a clock. And then it's projected upside down on the wall. And for this show, I really wanted a situation where I could engineer a misread, engineer a misstep, a different timeline. And what happens is you understand it as a clock. You're like, that's an upside down clock. But then ever so often, there ends up being this out of context word that pops up where you change it in your brain to a word. And I love the idea of that point where you're like, it flips from what it was to what it could be. That's partly is how I was feeling at the time. And this kind of gets me to where I am now. I am developing this show in my head. It's kind of preliminary work for this work I want to do later at my parents' house. Really kind of investing in photography as my solution to part of this problem, where it's inherently flat. If sculpture is interested in 3D space, I'm just taking a extreme position within that space. I still think of these things as objects, and I've been calling this show in my brain fake things I didn't make. And I'm trying to compose things in a confusing way. I'm trying to compose things that are interesting to me and whatever. But it's an accumulation of stuff. It is a lot of times things pretend to be other things. This is a hand that a grad student made that I loved and was throwing away. This is a fossil I found as a kid. This is a wooden apple that my wife's grandfather made. I'm trying to make these interesting compositions and images And one of the visual themes are these 3D printed, AI generated rocks that are inherently the most fake thing I can make. I also spray paint with the fake rock spray paint. And playing with the frames. Can the frame be part of the image? Can the frame help balance the image by messing with the frame? And really kind of geeky now in the situation of, so I take multiple images uh, in this kind of Cezanne kind of way of um, showing multiple angles at the same time to get the 3D-ness of it at the top of this pair. Or do I reuse things? Do I have to make new things? Can I recontextualize? Can I revamp existing things? And that's what I'm working on now. Ta-da!
Nice. Thank you so much, Thomas. Good night. And then thank you
Well,
for
early,
sharing the
but
stories too and some of the background, like the fact that you started and ended with this image of you. What was it? You bought you brought 5 hats for a 3-day trip.
yeah, like we all do.
Yeah, you need options. You need options.
Like baseball at the time.
Mm-hmm. And so sharing your work and like the way that you think about objects, object stories, things that you've made, things that you've found, sort of this like accumulation. Can you share a little bit about like for you when you were in undergrad, you're making those bicycles with the tires that were out of film or that were disintegrating as you would ride? How for you sculpture or that exploration went from undergrad to grad to how you think about yourself when you teach and that engagement. Like, can you tell a little bit about that
Mhm.
story?
When I went to grad school, I went to Carnegie Mellon on purpose because I wanted to, I don't know, make robots. I've been making these mechanical electronic things, and I thought that would be the next logical step. I mean, they're known for this kind of thing. And when I got there, I got a little disenchanted with that. And one of the kind of prevailing things that was hard for me in some ways is that I never made kind of precious objects. Everything was kind of like remade and reconstructed and destroyed or whatever. And I found myself to making like actual like things that had to be like preserved and cared
Mm,
for. And that was weird. And then it's the first time I had this moment where like uh I want to do this, but my brain's make me do a different thing. Um and I think that's something that comes up a lot when I in class we talk a lot about the viewer experience. We talk a lot about how the viewer makes the meaning. We talk a lot about how you can how you what you can control and what you can't control. Um in terms of like what the viewer thinks. In grad school one time I had a guest critique with a guy, and his first question was like, what do you want the viewer to feel? And I was like, I don't want the viewer to feel anything. I want the viewer to think things, but I never even thought about the idea that people feel things to a
mm,
pretty logical brain. Um, but even that kind of thing it's amazing how it opens your mind up to be like, oh, right, it's really
yeah.
obvious that everybody probably already thinks, but it's interesting to me, yeah, how that conversation happens as a professor now.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Where you had one expectation when you went on to Carnegie Mellon, but as you went through that experience, sort of unpacking and then thinking about this work that you've been doing, where you're unpacking your own identity, but then
Mhm.
also unpacking other people's identities to understand like yours.
Yeah, it's
Thank
funny.
you.
Yeah, as a middle class white guy, I never thought why would my voice matter to anybody? Like especially in undergrad, I was like, I can't make work about me because what would I ever say? But I found myself just needing to. It's hard to explain without going back into more story, but like because the project I was working on was a collaborative project where it identified more to the other guy, so I had to like figure out where I fit into that project. I had to start making work about me. Um, but it's been fun. I like this idea of reinventing myself. I mean, look, being interested in photography right now, it's so fun because I get to find all these new artists that I did not know of. Because a lot of times photography is parallel to the bigger art world. Um, I'm afraid to talk to photographers sometimes because I'm like, oh, have you seen this person? And they're like, it's like me saying, like, have you ever heard of Damien Hirst? It's crazy, like somebody really obvious. Something.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed it.
Good. From that work that you've been doing, so you're sharing a lot about like how your object, like understanding of like object nature and that materiality, but the power of choice that you've chosen, even like with the things that you're taking photographs of, whereas like, are you a photographer or a sculptor, like that
Hmm.
exploration too, but like the mailbox and then the concrete and the bricks, like those choices that you're also seeing other people, whether they see themselves as makers or not, but then you're recognizing it. So the power of, in a way, like acknowledgement and choice in
Sure.
what you do.
Yeah, in my artist statement, I talk about people who don't intentionally create. You know,
Hmm.
they may not know they're making something that's awesome, but they're sometimes making something that's awesome.
Hmm. And they might be also saying something inadvertently about their cares or their priorities.
Yeah.
And they might not even worry about it. They're just trying to get that mailbox to stay up, but you saw it. And you're like, this is special. That's something I want to remember. And you continue
I've
to
been
share.
showing that picture for, I don't know, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Every artist talk.
Nice. One day somebody's gonna be sitting in the audience, but that's my house.
Yeah, can't
Uh,
wait.
So with that, you've been also like continuing, and we've kind of talked a little bit about the teaching. And so where you're getting ready to curate this show for MIdSouth Sculpture Alliance, you're not there anymore. And
Mm-mm.
so, but you're very familiar with this gallery
Yeah,
at the same time. Could you talk a little bit about that relationship and where you're at now?
yeah. I mean, like, you mean physically where I'm at now?
Yes.
I got out of grad school and I got a job at MTSU, and I worked there for 14 years in the kind of foundations area, and then 5 years ago, got a job here at Belmont University where I teach now, and I'm the sculpture professor and chair of the department. And it's amazing how much my job now is administrative, and surprisingly enjoy making schedules and budgets and stuff. I would not have said that in the past, but it's a puzzle, and I like a puzzle.
Mhm.
Um, but I really enjoyed the switch. I mean, the jobs are very different. I really enjoyed my time at MTSU as well. Um, and I'm very familiar with that space and that gallery, um, and what will look good there. Yeah.
That's great. That's rare. We've been prepping for the confab exhibitions, and we have two jurors who haven't been to those galleries. And so in this case, you've been in that space many a time, you've installed your own artwork, but you're not there anymore. So you also have the sort of outside experience now
Yeah.
too, where you're not seeing it every day. So I think
Yeah.
that's really nice benefit.
Yeah. The space is sort of broken, maybe visually up into three areas. Um, and I think the ceiling is basically the same in all three, but visually it kind of feels like that. Yeah, I've had my own artwork there. I had a big project there, which I didn't show you all, which is a collaborative piece where we built a whole house in that gallery out of cardboard. Just studs, but
Hmm.
part of this collaborative I do with Dan Desarn, who you went to grad school with also.
I remember Dan. Yes, he was a first year grad when I was a third year grad.
Yeah,
So then yeah, that would make sense that yeah, you were all were there at the same time too.
yeah,
Yeah.
we overlapped a bunch.
Tiny world,
Yeah.
all the Tennessee. So with that, let's shift to Cassie. Would you be so kind? Could you like share screen and let's take a look at the call. So if anybody is new to MIdSouth Sculpture Alliance and hasn't visited our website, this is how you would find information about the exhibition. We're looking
I'm
at right
getting
now.
there. Sorry.
It's
Here's
okay.
our, let me go back. Let me go to our homepage. If you just go to midsouthsculpture.org,
Click on the MSA.
let's see. Yeah,
Okay,
one of them. Oh,
maybe.
I have it here.
There it
Wow.
is.
And this other tab. So this is the midsouthsculpture.org. So if you come here directly on the homepage, you'll find information about confab, but also the call is going to be right here for fiction, the MTSU juried exhibition. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the page. And then from here, it has all of the information and the link to apply directly. So deadline for this call is the 24th. So it's coming up
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Um, and then it is free for MSA members, so another reason to join MSA to apply, but there is a $35 fee for non-members as well. So,
Hey,
yeah, that's a perk of MSA in general. All of the exhibitions are to apply to if you're a member, typically included.
That was definitely a benefit. And then what are
Yeah.
the exhibition dates?
So the dates for that are October 14th through November 7th. So installation or in-person delivery has to be by October 5th. Shipping artwork October 7th. So, and then de-install will be the 9th through the 10th. So keep those dates in mind when applying. Make sure you can do that.
And then, yeah, scroll down a little bit further. So we've been talking about this exhibition as fiction. I don't know if you can zoom in on the fiction part.
Yeah.
Yeah, zoom.
That's as far as I can go.
That's all right.
That's what I got.
Better for my eyeballs. Like I can at least see it now. It was just fuzzy a second ago. And so Thomas, can you talk a little bit about the choice of this theme? And so when we work with curators and jurors for these exhibitions, we give them the option if they would like to have a theme. Sometimes like the MSA Select, which is going to be part of Confab, there isn't a theme. You only have to be a professional member of Confab of MSA to be able to be in that show. And so the select is a non-theme. In this case, you chose a theme and you named it fiction. Can you talk about this idea?
Yeah, it's the thing that kind of I've been thinking the most about with my work now. Like when I talk about fake things I didn't make, part of that is tongue in cheek because even the photograph is so distant from the way I normally would work. Like the idea that this machine makes the thing versus I make the thing, and that every photograph is not reality. It's kind of this fake version of reality. So it's the thing that I've been thinking a lot about in terms of every day. And I don't really have a hard time separating my work from reality in some ways, or like it's all artwork. My whole life is artwork. So and part of that goes back to this idea of like, you know, that fake things I didn't make is like the worst version of a show. Like, why would anybody care about fake things that I didn't make? And how can I make that interesting? So I enjoy the idea of like, is it right? Is it real or fake? Is it a lie or a truth? Whose lie is it? Is it true to you or fake to me? And I think, you know, a mold is a fakery. It's indexical in the way a photograph is, but even me 3D printing things, which is not something I'm necessarily inherently interested in, feels like a fakery in some way. So I think of it in really broad terms, but it's a thing that I find interesting right now.
Nice. So people could take lots of different approaches to maybe this idea of story or of fiction. It reminds me of the icebreaker, the very uncomfortable icebreaker about like two truths and a lie. I figure it out. And so in this case, you know, there's just an exploration, maybe questioning like what is truth. Might be another way to even think about like this idea.
Or like even something used in the wrong way is in some way a lie or a non-truth.
Nice. Well, I look forward to seeing all of the things that start to become part of this exhibition and the range of ways that this theme shows up at the MTSU Gallery this fall. And thank you, Cassidy, for scrolling to the next parts for reminders about how to apply. If you haven't applied to an MSA show or if you're new to our membership, going through this, we try to be really straightforward and clean. It's a Google form to upload. And so there's a couple of things such as your artist statement. That's going to help Thomas understand what it is that might be your exploration of fiction. Oh, we're moving.
I figured out to zoom in. I got it to do a thing now. Yeah.
So complete entry form. Sorry, it's funny. I was just like trying to get, you know, dizzy. Artist statement. This is again where you're going to help Thomas understand how you're responding to this idea of fiction. A short bio statement, and just know that these two things, the artist statement and bio statement, if you're selected for this show, there will be a catalog, a digital catalog that's produced, and those are going to be in there. So think about how it is that you put that language together. Images, please submit up to 3. You can go up to 3 artworks, so it doesn't have to be only one piece, and you can submit up to 10 images. So knowing that most sculptors like to see that side view too, maybe a detail shot of maybe the materiality. Include additional images, up to 10 images total, and upload those. And then make sure that you also have an image list that describes those things. So looking on down as far as the JPEG or PNG format, and then size details. And then this is where that titling helps a lot. So please make sure that you title it with your last name and then what the title or untitled is, so that we can find which images belong to you. If everybody just submits fiction #1, it's going to be really hard to be able to figure out the form, like which artworks are going to be seen and who belongs to what. And so please put your name. Include an image list, and that's where you can have your title, all the label data. So if your piece is selected, that's where the titles and the labels will come from. So title, date completed, media, dimensions, all your regular details really help. Weight of artwork, there is a weight component whenever hanging from the wall or suspending. And so take a look at the gallery information for that part too.
I believe it's 50 pounds.
Yeah, I think it's 50 pounds for wall hung or ceiling suspended, but you can also ask the preparator, the gallery preparator, if it's over 50. And so there might be other considerations. And then optional description of the artwork. There is a blank in there. This is not required, but sometimes you need a little bit more of an explanation about the material, especially I think in some cases with this show, it might help to give the background. I found this brick on the ground, so what's the fiction? But then that could also be part of the story. I cast this and it was a mold off of this. And so explaining what it is that Thomas is looking at in that image, if it's important to you and if you feel it's important to the artwork. But this is optional. You do not have to submit that part. The bio statement at the top and the artist statement at the top, those we do need. MTSU's gallery does not provide insurance, so just keep that in mind. And if you do get in, as Cassie mentioned earlier, watch the dates, and the shipping or delivery is the artist's responsibility. So go ahead, Cassie, what were you going to say? We're looking at the maps.
Oh, I was just going to show the blueprint or the measurements of the space, so then everybody can have an idea. There are columns in the space. That's what I can see from here. Thomas, you've been in the space.
Yeah.
You know
the columns
more
are
about
really
it.
present, but they're not intrusive. They're not huge or anything, but they are. That's what I was saying. It kind of visually breaks it up into 3 areas. There's kind of this when you walk in, this area behind that little wall to the right, and then kind of that center space and this kind of left space. Not that matters, but it's an interesting part of the gallery.
Nice. And about how tall are the ceilings?
I would say they're 9 feet, because there's they're taller, but there's down dampening stuff that kind of hangs down. In terms of visual space, I would say like 8 or 9 feet.
Gotcha.
And then the doors, is it just standard door size, double door? We're trying to figure or thinking about
double doors,
how large things could be. Cool.
Nice. Thank you, Cassidy.
Yeah.
And with that, that's our introduction to Thomas as the juror, as well as a little bit of information about how to apply. You just click that apply here button. It's going to have all of those details as far as blanks to fill in, information about your images. So put all of those in, click submit on July 24th in 2 weeks before midnight. And so please help us out and make Thomas work super hard for this opportunity.
Can't wait.
Yes, all the images. And with that, I'm going to take a look at my YouTube. I've been following on YouTube as well. No chats? Cool. Well, I will ask. Nope. Maybe we're just that thorough.
Maybe.
So, Thomas, thinking about just a couple of questions as you're looking at other people's images and you're going through, what are some things that you would encourage people to either make sure to do or to avoid doing to help your work and your understanding? Anything that you could give us?
I think
hints.
that optional text is a great idea. I am inherently interested in the story of things. So if it
Mm,
has a story, that's great. Um, I'm I'm not anti-craft. I'm not whatever, but I am conceptually driven throughout my life. And so I think that part of it is really key to me. I like this relationship between form and material, how the object works. Anything that can help that story, I think is great.
nice. And then image wise, any advice on images, what not to do or to do? Pet
No,
peeves?
I mean, yeah, multiple angles are always great. The thing I talk to students about all the time, and they forget to think about is presentation. Oftentimes, you know, how it relates to the wall, how it relates to its pedestal, whatever. So there's something specific that needs to happen. Knowing those specifics, I think, is important. I wouldn't doubt they would do that, but just in case.
Nice. Yeah. It depends on if there's something in the background that's not supposed to be part of the art, maybe make sure it's not in the background.
For sure.
But especially with this topic, you might assume it's in the background, and then it comes
Yeah.
to the gallery, you're like, where's the thing? That's in the background.
Yeah. I gotta have the thing.
Yeah, I need the thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, making sure when it comes to the images, that is what you want the juror to see, and that the
Mhm.
information, whether it be the optional description or the titling, help make sure that all the information is there and easy to access for Thomas. And with that, just another reminder, 2 weeks, July 24th is the deadline for this. And then the exhibition is in October and November at MTSU's gallery in Tennessee. And it's going to be a really fun exhibition. Lots of stories, I anticipate.
And speaking of October, join us
Oh,
for
yeah.
Confab.
Yes, yes.
First
So
weekend of October.
first weekend of October, come and join us in Arkansas on October 2nd and 3rd. We have our keynote speaker, Bailey Liu, who Tennessee 4, she also was at Tennessee. She got her BA in graphic design in 2002 and then went on to graduate school and is now in Austin, Texas. And she's going to be our keynote speaker. She juried the exhibition Mining the Material that will be on show in their gallery. And then Johanna Hutchinson from International Sculpture Center juried the Open Select. There's a scholarship exhibition and a scholarship panel. The 6 scholarship students are going to be there presenting about their work. So it's going to be a really, really creative and inspiring time. There's also
And
one more.
students,
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, and students, keep an eye out for our student pop-up call, pedestal and freestanding work. But yeah.
Yeah, there's one more call still coming up that's going to open August 1st and it's due September 1st. And so for students, it's a student membership to be able to apply, and then you're being juried in and you carry your work there. So it's a pop-up show. You don't have to ship your work. You carry it to Confab, put it up. Everybody is the space that everyone's going to be in, so your work will get lots of eyeballs, and then you get to take it home with you at the end of Confab. So there's one more show coming up still for that. And then there's also the outdoor exhibition. So there's 5 outdoor sculptures that were already juried in by Brian Massey and the public art team at Arkansas. So there's so much going on. So anyway, with that said, we look forward to seeing you in October, whether it's at Arkansas and Tennessee or both. That would be great. In the meantime, continue to do all the work and keep cool out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I ended it.
Thank you.
No, we're no longer